Okay, can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then let's start. As I was reviewing the reports, I frequently found that the mixture between the abstract and the introduction, right? So then the first thing I want to clarify is what is the abstract and what is the introduction? For example, Churchill, what is the abstract?
I think it is a word to show what you do.
Okay, and then the same question to Shunpei.
I think abstract is summarize of the paper.
The summary of the report, right?
Yes.
Okay, then what is the introduction? Or what the purpose of introduction? Maybe read on.
Yes. It is to start report.
Okay.
Yes, maybe the introduction, it will consist of the purpose of your report and maybe the research way of your report or anything.
Sorry. The purpose and what?
And the method you choose to do your research.
Right. Okay. Then maybe Yijiang.
In my opinion, maybe have the result or outcome in the introduction.
Introduction. Okay. Yi-san.
Yes. I think introduction is to I'm not sure.
Okay. And then maybe Kiriko.
I think introduction is to say the background of the contents of the report.
So then, slightly different question. What is the purpose of the introduction? Why do you need to give the introduction? So any individual structure in a report or paper should have its own role, right? So it's better to aware about it. And once you're aware about it, you can nearly mechanically write this part. So if you do anything, not only the writing the report, you need to aware about the purpose, like why you are doing it. And in a case of paper writing, and especially when you are writing an introduction, you need to aware why you are writing the introduction and why. Maybe Rion.
Yes. Your question is why we write the introduction.
Why we need the introduction? Okay. First, let's aware about the purpose of the introduction. The purpose of the introduction is to bring the readers to the same point with you. That's the purpose of introduction. Is it clear for you? So all readers are in different locations, their own point. But we are going to start, we are going to talk about a single story, right? So to make them understand, we need to bring them into a single location, the same location with you, okay? So the introduction, the main purpose of the introduction is to bring the readers to the same point with you. Okay, don't forget about it. And anything in an introduction should be organized for this purpose. This is the first point. Okay, then, structure. For this, which kind of structure do we need? Okay, the first point, anyone are spread apart in the world. They are watching at different locations, different directions. So we need to make them into a single point, or we need to attract them into a single point, technically, right? And for this, we need to clarify the background. Okay, so first you need to explain the background of the research. And what is the background in general? Maybe Lampe? Or maybe Kiriko is better.
Okay.
Yes, it is a problem.
Yeah, what do you mean by this background?
What did I mean? And by knowing the background, we can know the problem of this the situation.
Okay. So it's a summary of her point. The background is the facts to know or technically understand problems, right? So at this moment, the background is still not the problem, but the facts, anyone, anyone, the background is the facts to understand, hold on. The background is facts to understand the problems. And at this moment, the background is not the problem itself, but a fact, okay? Background is the facts which anybody can agree. Okay, if some of the reader cannot agree with the background, this cannot be the background because they just reject to come to the point, the starting point of your discussion. Correct? So the background should be formed with the facts for which anybody can agree. And for this, what you can do, for example, you can cite references. Authorized information can be used as a fact which anyone can agree. Well, very simple things, very simple claim. Like that was believed to be true for more than 100 years or something. Got it? The point is, okay, and a simple thing, you can claim it, but if it is not simple, you always need a reference to claim it. And that is something I pointed out in a Shunpei's report this time, right? Okay, but know that beginners simple claim, okay, simple claim is not simple, in fact, very frequently. A student just got the information from their seniors and they are non-critically believe these things are very well accepted fact, but very frequently it's not. So the simple claim, you always need to doubt whether this is a well-accepted simple claim or not. And most of the things are not well-accepted fact. Maybe you need to find a reference. And if you can find a references, maybe it's not well-accepted. Got it? So nominally, most of the things in the background will need the references. Got it? Okay, then the next structure of the next structure element of introduction. The first one is the background, right? And then what is the second one? The background is to understand the problem, right? And then the next point is the problem itself. But for this, we call it as complication. For the background, it's a word was quite, say, the word was quite peace, and there is no problem. But you can find out that the situations, and then you can identify the problem of that word. Okay, the background is a safe and peace, but there is something happens. For example, say, like you can talk about the tumor diagnosis, cancer diagnosis, and cancer treatment, and blah blah blah, and then you can find it for this kind of treatment. Still, there is a lack of the imaging modality, which is label-free and non-destructive, right? That's a complication. That's a problem. Technically, it's a new things happened. Okay? By the happening of the new things, the world becomes unsafe and not peace. There is some problems. And the new things can be like lack of something, or even emerging of new technology. Right? This one is quite simple, right? And if there is something missing, you need to make it. And this one is a little bit difficult to think. But if you have a new device or new technology, maybe you can say come to a more aggressive solution than that was accepted currently. Okay, so both of them can be the complication. But anyway, after this, you can identify the problem to be solved. So it is called as PI, problem identification. And then, okay, so far is it clear for you guys? Okay. Once you've identified a problem, you can give your strategy. I call it as a solution frequently. It is your approach to solve the problem. And this to be described in details in the report. Got it? And then this approach is associated with your hypothesis. A report is something intermediate, but for example, journal papers are always associated with a hypothesis. For example, like a new technique you have developed can be used to solve the problem is one of the hypotheses, and that is something you want to prove in a study, right? And also, like if it is a finding in a physics or biology, maybe something is some material or some molecule is associated with diabetic activity is another example. So this one, for example, this one is very frequently regarded as a hypothesis, but this guy can be very frequently missed. But this one is a hypothesis, and especially for the engineering papers and engineering report, this type of hypothesis can be appeared very frequently. But most of the people didn't think it's a hypothesis, but in reality, it's a hypothesis. Got it? And then maybe with this hypothesis, you can clarify the purpose of the report or the study which is described in the report. Got it? Okay, it's the introduction. So far clear for you? Okay, then what these guys? Actually, the method is method. Right? And the result is result. So it's a two different things. It's not the introduction. But a method is method and the result is results. But although it is frequently missed, there is another element, especially when you are thinking about these types of hypotheses. A new technique you have developed can be used to solve the problem. Okay, for example, if you develop something, where do you describe this new technique? Maybe Yi-chan, where do you describe this? If you develop a new technique and you want to describe the details of this, in which section of the report or the paper or thesis are you going to describe?
Which part? Maybe
Actually, it's an advanced question.
new technology.
Then Shunpei. Even the professional researcher cannot answer to this question very frequently. And what would you say, Shunpei?
I'm not sure.
Okay, and then Rian.
Yes. Principal.
I think I've talked about it to you once. Okay, she did. Okay, she know the answer actually. I talked about it once. It's a principle. The modern paper doesn't have frequently doesn't have the principle section, but when we think this is the hypothesis, surely we need to describe the principle, and where describe a description about new technique you have developed, right? And then what is the method section? So what the difference between the principle and method? Okay, let's think about the word of thesis. So maybe you guys know the word of thesis, right? The master student will going to write a master thesis, and a bachelor student will going to write a bachelor thesis. And then what is the meaning of the thesis? So maybe you found a similar word with thesis today. It's a hypothesis, right? And thesis and a hypothesis are quite close to each other. The thesis is a hypothesis which is going to be proven. The proof of the hypothesis is a thesis. Got it? So it's like a bachelor thesis, master thesis, and a PhD thesis. All of them might have a hypothesis, and you are going to prove through the entire thesis. Got it? So then the structure, say anything in a thesis should be dedicated to prove your hypothesis. Got it? So introduction is to clarify the hypothesis, right? And then the principle is to describe the method, describe a new development which is used to describe the hypothesis. Then what is the method for? Maybe cubicle?
Yes. This is to explain the operation of the experiment.
Operation. And what is the experiment for then?
Experiment is to experiment. Is to prove the hypothesis.
Yep, that's right. So the experiment in your study is going to be done to prove the hypothesis, right? And the method is to describe which kind of experiment are you going to do. So it's a method is to describe method of an experiment, in general trials. The experiment is an experiment literally, but also sometimes it can be a more theoretical or say a numerical, but anything trials can be done to prove the hypothesis, and you can write the method of these trials, and this can include, for example, the device or equipment, a sample, the protocols, analysis method, or often statistical. What a little bit difficult to understand is very frequently the principle is treated as a part of method in the modern papers. But in reality, the method is method and the principle is principle. And when you check our papers, like recently published, like Ibrahim's one, or Oikawa's one, and also the recent Oida's one, you can find that there is one section before method section. So I didn't name it as a principle, but in reality, that's a principle section, which describe new say technology we developed. And then the method section is to describe something which is existing, but which were used to validate our hypothesis. And most frequently, the hypothesis is the new development is useful. Correct? Okay. So now I believe the method section, the purpose of it, and the structure of it are clear for you. And then, what is the result? Result is literally results you have obtained by the study, okay? But study be defined in the method section. Got it? The result is something you got from the study. But which kind of study you did should be described in the method section. Okay? And then the discussion. It's another difficult point. So say, what the difference between the result and discussion? Maybe Chachi.
Discussion maybe some points you cannot solve in the result, and to discuss with ours.
So this means it's open issues.
Yes.
Okay. How about Shunpei?
Yes. Discussion is interpretation of results.
Okay. And then maybe Yijiang.
Maybe some problems caused by the results, and we can use the discussion to discuss the problem or issue.
Margin problems. Okay. Maybe Hui-song. Do you have something to add?
Maybe some uncertain points.
Maybe an uncertain point can be summarized as an open issue then. Nearly the same point. Okay. Then Leon.
Yes. New vision of
Did you say?
new vision of this research.
Future prospect.
Yes.
Okay, then what is the difference between the result and discussion? Kiriko?
Yes, I think the result is show that data, and it includes only the fact, but discussion includes the opinion of author.
Results are only the rigid facts. Results are rigid facts you have to obtain from the study. Okay, while discussion can be the secondary facts. You can derive from the primary facts. Okay, this one is one basic rule. The primary facts are include, sorry, results and references. Okay, so you can combine the results and the references and put them into the logical way of thinking and can create a secondary result, the secondary fact, sorry. This is the discussion. Now, for example, this one, interpretation of the result is an example of this, right? Hold on, include result, references, and maybe your guess. Right? So the Shunpei's point, interpretation of the result, is one of the example. Okay, and emerging problems are also the secondary result, or secondary facts you found from the result, right? Or analysis. So this can be here. And future prospects and okay, emerging problems and open issue are quite the same. And the future prospect is your guess. Okay, and I just ordered it from the more rigid and to more flexible. But anything can be included in the discussion. But the rule to separate the discussion and the result is a rigid rigid primary fact, as Kiriko mentioned. But a discussion can be more flexible. Okay, by combining the facts by your logic, you can make a discussion, and then by combining the discussion with the logic, you can make a conclusion. Conclusion is a derived fact you derive from the discussion as combining each point's, namely each paragraph's final claims, by a clear logic. Okay, it's a conclusion. And then I just re-emphasize this point. Each point is a paragraph's claims, means in a discussion, one claim should be summarized as a single paragraph. Okay, so now then you can think about a paragraph. One claim should be summarized as a single paragraph, right? And then one paragraph should be organized to give a single claim. And a paragraph is formed by combining the primary and secondary facts by our logic. Okay? And the discussion might contain the multiple paragraphs, but each paragraph should be associated with a single claim. And by combining these claims, you can make a conclusion. Okay? This one is the conclusion. And then I also want to remind it, the conclusion. Okay, then what is the conclusion? What the conclusion should be? As, say, in its relative position to the other part of the report or paper. What the role of the conclusion? Maybe Lampe?
Actually, I'm not clear about your question. You mean what's the conclusion should consist of?
Okay,
Or something?
then, let me rephrase my question.
Yeah.
What is the most tightly bounded elements with the conclusion in the report or paper? What
Yeah.
is the part of the conclusion in the paper?
It will be the last part of the paper, and maybe it should consist of how your result can prove your hypothesis or something.
Exactly. This one is the answer of the hypothesis. Okay. So the paper should be organized to prove the hypothesis, right? And then the hypothesis is qualified in the introduction. Okay, the introduction is technically exists to qualify the hypothesis. And then to understand the hypothesis, you need to describe the principle. And to prove the hypothesis, okay, the principle is to understand the hypothesis, right? And the method, hold on. Okay, the principle is to understand the hypothesis. Okay, let me start from the beginning. Introduction is to qualify the hypothesis, right? And the principle is required to describe the hypothesis or to understand the hypothesis. Okay, this one is also okay for you. Without principle, you cannot describe the hypothesis. The principle is something which is going to be used in the hypothesis, so you need to define it, the principle. Okay, and then to prove it, you need a certain logic. It's a discussion. And for this certain logic, you are going to use some entries, elements. It's a fact. So the discussion is a combination of the fact, and the combination is going to be done by logic. Okay? The discussion connects the facts by logic. And the facts, what are the facts? It's the results. Okay? There is a hypothesis, and its answer is here in a conclusion. But to get this conclusion, you need a discussion. And to properly discuss anything, you need certain results. Got it? And to get the result, what do you need? It's a method. Got the point? So it's not the straightforward flow. In general, the paper structure or the report structure cannot be a straightforward. It can be started from the introduction and then going to go to the conclusion, and from this conclusion you can derive the discussion, and from this discussion you can derive the result, and from this result you can define the method. Got it? It's the flow of the paper writing, or flow to retrospectively understand what you've done. Okay, it's a little bit difficult point. So there are 2 points of views. One is retrospective, and the other is prospective. The prospective point of view are always you are going to have. So when you're doing your prospective, you're thinking about the future, right? And frequently the students started to do the result before defining the method, right? It's a trials and errors. But once you started to summarize the report or journal paper, you need to review what you did from the future to the past, and then restructure your logic. And if you find something is missing, you need to redesign the study and do it again. Okay, especially when you are writing the rigid journal paper, most of the cases you need to redo the experiment based on a well-designed method or protocol. Correct? Maybe for the report, it is not really necessary, but you always need to review what you did from the future to the past every time you are going to write the report. Correct? It's a point. Okay? So please think about it. I'm going to share this video later, so maybe you can check it again. And also, I'm going to share this document. Okay, then now we are starting from the introduction to coming to the result, coming to the conclusion. And then what is the last thing you are going to write when you write the report? Maybe read on.
Yes.
So what is the last thing you're going to write when you're writing a report?
Last thing.
Yeah.
Last thing we should write the abstract.
Yeah, actually yes. So the abstract is appeared at the beginning of the report, but in reality you should write it at the end. Okay, so before writing the report, you cannot write the abstract. This is something a very frequent mistake of the students. The students started to write the abstract at the beginning, but before making anything, you cannot make a short version of this. Got it? The abstract should be written at the end of your report writing, or paper writing, or thesis writing. Okay, then there is a small technique to write the abstract. How you can do it? Summarize each paragraph by a single sentence. Okay, and then you are going to have a list of summarized sentences. So if your report contains the 10 paragraphs, you are going to have 10 sentences, right? And if then you can summarize, you can check on the list of summarized sentences, and then you can summarize each subsection by a single sentence. It's a distillation. You can start from the whole report and make one paragraph into a single sentence. So then you are going to have, if it is a journal paper, you are going to have 30, 40 sentences to summarizing it. Got it? And then by checking these sentences, and then you can summarize each subsection by a single sentence. Okay? And then by checking it, finally you can construct the abstract. Kind of on a pyramid approach from the bottom to the top. You can summarize each small portion of the abstract and summarize each summarized sentences and do it again and again. Okay? And if it becomes something like a few sentences, it might be the abstract. But finally, from this, you need to summarize anything into a single sentence. What is this? What is the extremity of the abstraction of your report or paper? Maybe Kiriko?
Sorry, I don't have an idea.
Okay. Yu-song?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Shunpei, maybe?
Sorry, I'm not sure.
Okay. Then maybe Rion? The finally distilled abstract by a single sentence. Okay, that's the title. Okay, by distilling your reports or journal paper as high concentration as possible, it becomes the title. Okay, but so this means you need to finalize the title at the end of your writing. But at the same time, maybe it's good to make a tentative title before writing it. It will create your focus, right? But after writing anything, it's good to remake the title. Okay, it's a kind of iterative process. So you need to aware something you're writing, and then you need to revise it later. It's an iterative process. But in anyway, the good title can be made or remade after writing anything to clarify what you're going to discuss in a paper. Got it? Okay, so and actually I frequently see the structure problem of the reports of young students. I'm going to share this video and also this document, but in anyway, please check it and improve your reports. Got it? Okay, do you guys have any question, comments? Okay, if it's not, thank you for your time and study hard, guys. Okay, see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you.